Hi everyone. This week's immigrant tip is about rentals. When you are renting a home, a house or an apartment, it doesn't matter. Different countries have different rental structures and agreements. So for example, if you rent an apartment or a home in Australia, there is a government organization that takes your deposit. Okay, and there they call it a bond. Whereas in South Africa, a bond is the name that you use for a mortgage repayment. But in Australia, a bond is the deposit that you pay when you take on a rental. And both you and the landlord sign that money off. And it goes to this government organization that holds on to it until you move out and you've given notice or the lease agreement is over. And then both you and the landlord have to sign together to get that money released. And it's to protect renters against a landlord saying that you need to pay for something when you don't. And it's also there to protect landlords when the renter says that they're not going to pay for something that they broke. This is something good that I personally have found is unique to Australia. When you rent in Australia, most of the time you are renting an unfurnished apartment or house. So you have to bring everything in. There's usually a stove that's included and fittings, obviously for your washer and for any gas heating. But the stove is usually the only thing that's included. You've got to bring your own fridge, your own washer and dryer, every single piece, every single item, every single piece of furniture into the house yourself. The same is true of New Zealand. The same is true of South Africa. But in the United States, and it may not be all states, but a lot of the states that the state that I stayed in and the state that my friend had a rental house in, you usually get a fridge, obviously a stove, and often a washer and a dryer, unless the apartment building has its own washer and dryer. But even so, some landlords may include a washer and dryer into the mix. And I know that in the state that my friend was renting in, landlords had to include a fridge and a washer and a dryer, as well as a stove, which I had not seen. So in different countries, different states, different provinces, different things may be included or excluded in an unfurnished apartment. Obviously, if you are renting a furnished apartment or house, pretty much everything's going to be included, and that's great. It's usually a bit more, but it changes. For example, a student of mine that was living in Berlin, they had to move everything in, including tables and cabinets in the kitchen were not even included, which I had never heard of, because everywhere I've ever been, kitchen furniture, cabinets and cupboards and countertops are always included. In the US and Canada, the deposit that you pay when you move into a place is called a security deposit. And in Texas, where I was renting, they also had a pet bond or a pet deposit. So you had to put I think it was $250 at the time down on top of your security deposit for having a pet, just in case they destroyed anything, and an extra between $15 and $25, depending on where you were, was tacked onto your monthly rental cost for every animal that you had. So if you had 2 animals and it was $15 an animal, you would pay $30 extra a month in rent for those animals. I'm not saying that that happens everywhere. Definitely does not happen in Australia, New Zealand, or South Africa. So different countries will have different rental structures, different rules, and also it will be different in what is included in your rental. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I will see you all again for another one in a couple of weeks.